This question is from a cosmic number 6, and they're asking, how do I deal with what I think is a sexual demon from my husband, who is a number 5? Thanks. So definitely not as easy to digest as the question was to read, possibly. I also know our sister, one of our sisters here had some deeper experiences about understanding how to love yourself more. Maybe she'll come into this and start talking about, like sometimes when you get in a relationship, you can even feel like that you have a certain dedication that you need to make to somebody and fulfill something that they want to do. And if that is contrary to where you're at personally in your experience, just how that could overall affect you. But yeah, I'll open this up for the key makers to say what they have to say about this.
Yeah, this is a very deep, and I this is a very deep question. And I know a lot of people that deal with this, myself including at one point. In a lot of my traveling, something attached itself to me, and it kept coming in the form of dreams, and it kept coming in all types of different spaces. And for me, it was just like, okay, what is this? At some point, when you're young, you enjoy the experience, but when you become older, you're like, okay, something is attaching itself to me. What are some meditation practices that I can do to start removing that kind of energy away from my space? What type of sage, what type of frankincense and myrrh, what type of, rhythms, tunes that I can begin to play to remove some of those spirits around me. But at the same time, what is it about me that attracted that thing to me? And what I found was it was a lot of, and this is just something I did. It was a lot of, okay, whatever spirit this is, I'm asking you to remove yourself from my space now. Like I didn't connect with the spirit, but I spoke to it in the sense of whatever you are, whatever I need for you to remove yourself. Now it was easier for me because, eventually that spirit, I stopped having dreams. I stopped dealing with a lot of that. But it's a whole nother level if you have a spirit connected with you that is your husband or your partner that is laying in bed with you. That is a whole nother geometry. That's a whole nother system that you got to work through. But I would highly encourage this communication and communicate that. Communication is key. Sit down and allow them to know this is what I am getting from you. This is whatever you've been a part of, it's attaching itself to me. And to really, you want to do that without causing a divorce, without causing you and your loved one to eventually part ways, but try to at least get a better understanding of what it is that is connected to him through these level of communication. And let me just stop there.
Wow, that's beautifully said. So I want to chime in on this because I have experience with this. So I mean, being that that's your partner, and you feel that there's like a sexual distortion going on, between you and your partner, especially being manifested through your partner. You have to be very stern about that energy and not engaging with it, because here's the thing. I'll give you all an example. I'm an open book, so it doesn't matter to me. I talked about it on my YouTube channel a while back, how I had contracted an STD, right? I had contracted one. And at first I knew that this energy was already distorted, but being a human being and giving into the lower self, there it is. You go for it, right? And then you ended up getting something that manifests into something else now that's physical. So it was already spiritual. It was already a spiritual manifestation. And then now, because it went a little further, the manifestation now turns physical where it impacts the physical body now. And so, although you may not be dealing with the physical nature of it at the moment, you now recognize that it's spiritual. Sex is spiritual regardless. And when it's distorted, everything is off balance. And so, since this is a marriage, this is your husband, your partner, you have to be the one to be like, all right, look, there needs to be some kind of boundary here until we can figure this out. Maybe you all should go on a cleanse together. Maybe you should clean out your body together, go on walks and meditate together. Especially meditation is key, meditating together rather than doing something such as sex, because sex opens you up to all kinds of things. There are many different energies that can get to you through sex. That's how they get to people. And so you have to be mindful of that. And be stern about that. You have to find other alternatives rather than engaging in sex. There are plenty of other levels to intimacy rather than just sex. That's like a lower level thing that we feed ourselves, especially if we don't know what we're doing with it. We don't know the proper tantra and all these other different things. If you don't know about it, then it's like you can open yourself to all kinds of things. So just be mindful. Yeah. Wholeness.
Wholeness. I'm gonna kick this to Sister Widgeby and just give her alley-oop, because again, it's all dealing with the womb, and then it's really slowing it down, because we know that this is important. Like this is a part of sex. Sex is 6. I got an echo. I'm here. Good? Right, cool. This is important. This is your body. This is your temple. This is your vessel. This is you here. And really being selfish in the space that being aware, as the observer, you can see like what's going on with your partner, and it's your partner, because you know his orientation of how he came to how he is right now, especially if you have great communication, and being in the world where it's so perverted, like it's hard for you to even, let's say, wear like something small, like for the ladies wearing something, something to work out in without getting the perception that you want it, or because you look like a sex icon, and getting to your husband to nullify that energy and those programs that are continually reverberating within this consciousness, that you may be doing something small, like, I don't know, whatever. And he sees you as this space, and then you may not want to say no, because sometimes that may lead to some type of friction. But really love yourself enough to say, babe, let's sit down and talk about this. This is how I'm feeling right now. And I need a break. I need a break. And my womb, I'm going into this thing where I'm going through, I know which be hit on the mother, crone, the mating, and going through these processes, and get him to understand that you are a supreme being. You're more than just this. And like Sister said, it's the intimacy. It's so much like you can do for intimacy. I got a tip from a tribe a couple of years back about just breathing together in the space and exploring the tantric practices of breathing together. It's so intimate when you can inhale, they exhale. And this dives into quite a bit, but I'm bounce fast to think this is the witch, because it's directly tied to the womb and Venus.
So in terms of the numbers, that there's one thing that happens with a number 6 marrying a number 5. In those terms, like, this relationship may not be a good fit. But so for me, like, in any relationship, you sort of have to know your boundaries, and start to work on yourself. So the number one thing is to work on the self, and your relationship, you come together after you hold yourself. So, many times, women don't take care of the different aspects of themselves, the different parts of who they are. So, and then you try to come together in a relationship, it just doesn't work. And, when we first start to be in love with someone, you are basically looking in the mirror, and you're only looking at the good parts, with the word good. However, once, you really get to have to deal with the person on a daily basis, then, hey, all sorts of things, that's just the nature of relationship. And this is why it's important to work on the self. And, it's important for a woman, personally to practice self-care, self-cultivation. In terms of sex itself, it's an energy, like knowing what your body can do. Imagine like if you're if you're trying to balance, within an imbalanced situation, and really the first imbalance is you. To me, it's a reflection of self. So you're in the relationship that you're currently, that's the state that you're in. So this is why you need to take care of you first, understanding like where you are, what is it that to be a six, what is it that you would need from a relationship, instead of, I'll give you one example for me. And then I'm definitely not a six, but when I first, when my marriage started to have issues, I wanted to do marriage counseling, and I went to the counselor, and my husband was like, no. And we went to counseling. Well, he didn't go to counseling. So I went to the counselor, and the counselor told me, hey, it's not about him. It's about you. So you need to do counseling yourself first. And it was really, really, once I started to do counseling myself, actually, I didn't need him. So, when to walk away. Sometimes we're like forcing relationships and have to be in relationships when the first relationship is with the self. I had to stop and realize, oh, I didn't really want him to go to counseling. I wanted to go to counseling. Instead of looking at your partner, really start looking at yourself. And, these attachments or demons, or they're actually aspects again of yourself. So if you're having a dream that's especially one dream that's following you, sometimes you might need to stop and ask that dream the question, instead of running away from that demon. Hate to give this example because he's gonna kill me. With my cousin, he has a succubus dream, and then this relationship is like he's always fighting with it, and and I'm like, wait, why don't you ask her the questions? I still like, hey, like let's talk instead of fight, and because if you're looking in the mirror, if you're looking at an aspect of yourself that is hidden, that is suppressed even. Our whole, our sexuality is suppressed. Connecting your physicality with your spirituality. Some of us have no idea how to do that. Especially when it comes to women of certain age, you give your sexuality to your children and be like, oh, I'm a mother now, so forget about me being sexy. You give your when you're young, you're ashamed because you're like, oh, I'm too young, I need to be innocent. So we don't teach our children what it is to be, to be a sexual being, because guess what? They start to have orgasm as children. And but because we don't teach them what this is, by the time they get into their, I know that's even a question beyond, but by the time they get into their teenage year, other things has already, clouded their mind, because we don't teach them what real sexuality is. How the body is energy, and it actually moves, and you can feel all of this throughout your whole system. It's a relationship with your different physicalities, with your different bodies. And you can feel it, and your being is sexuality. So any of these things, in terms of like having a certain dream, and your subconscious is revealing itself. So delving deeper, asking the question, and maybe even having that talk with the succubus is it would be where I would head with it. Wholeness.
And I believe that this is such a tough question. You can go ahead and come in, Paige, but this is such a tough question, but answered so beautifully well. I just wanted to at least, breathe for a moment and give, honor and respect and awareness to what our sister is saying directly, because I see that as such a powerful solution. Because when you're going at somebody else, especially when you're talking about something like this, it's not that the person said, hey, my husband keeps using my toothbrush as a number 9, is this ever going to end? They said specifically, I feel like that I'm having this experience with this person. And that's something that we have to respect, even as key makers, that it's not like you're saying, well, we're getting into arguments. You're saying, I'm dealing with something sexual that actually is a little bit more than I feel comfortable with. And what the sister is saying is, now, even to prepare yourself properly, to even be able to command that situation into what you want it to be, even if that means that you need to move on, you need to be prepared physically, spiritually, and mentally to do that. So at this stage, having a conversation with, I mean, I just don't see it logical to have a conversation with someone who's, let's say, over sexually stimulated about sitting down and let's breathe this out and let's meditate this. I don't think logically that that would be where the being would be. But I for sure could say that at times, if we're entering into these kind of relationships and we haven't moved on, it means that we need to start infusing ourselves directly with the things that are going to allow us to get to that aspect of awareness and self and respect of self that's going to bring that kind of conclusion. So if you don't feel like, as the sister is saying, like right now, that you can even walk away from something like this, it means that it's possibly you directly that needs to work on your own counseling, your own cleansing, the things that you're going to need to do to fortify yourself properly to make a decision that you may have not made yet. You want to go ahead and tie that in for Sister Paige?
Yes. I just want to wrap it up on my end. But like Sister Diaz was saying, like, the sixth energy, she built up on this, like, man, y'all gonna have to go back and listen to this. But she was talking about boundaries. And sixes, y'all are so beautiful. Beautiful. People will take advantage of your beauty. You gotta have boundaries. Six is sex. And we just built on this in the meditations this week. Six is sex. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have boundaries with yourself. And others will begin to see that, you're protecting your beauty. I want to protect your beauty too. That's key. So, that's what I gotta say on that, wholeness.
I want to add one more layer on that, just for the observation right now in the times that we in. A lot of people are in the house, so they're not getting a chance to express themselves as they usually would. Let's say maybe go to workout, go to get this physical energy exerted, and now we're in a space where this is what we do now. But you again, like, set them boundaries. Like, let's do this instead. Let's do this instead. And you can be just excited about this other physical expression than this one, and finding that level of it. But just for the transparency of observation of what times that we're in this particular moment and being in the house. Wholeness.
And
I wanted to, oh, go ahead. Please go, Jill.
I love this. All right, we're going to coast out with this question. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I think that this is a really wonderful way for us to use the archetypes of the numbers, because we can view ourselves. It begins to help us open up and have these relationships with ourselves, which we were talking about how, we're not taught that. We're taught we're supposed to go immediately in relationship with other people. We have to learn how to relate to ourselves. And that's what all of us are coming into now, which is so lovely. And these numbers, especially for me, have been a very helpful lens to begin to know myself better, to come up against my own edges, my own dark sides, and other people in relationship with that. And so, especially with these numbers, I know we talked about this when we all came into the numbers. Everybody was instantly scrutinizing their relationships and their friendships and thinking, I've got to get rid of this person. I've got to, and as we sort of matured and opened up into the space of the allowing to know that we are all of the numbers, we are all of these archetypes inside of us. And so it begins, I think, to give us an additional perspective on our relationships and some spaces to do the real work to find out, are we going to be able to learn and grow and expand from this? Or maybe this combination isn't the right thing for both of us, the most balanced space for us to be. And so I'm thinking about this 5, right, that we've been talking about. We've been talking about it from the 6, asking the question. And we had a couple of questions earlier last week and this week too, from Mercury, from number 5s who, have these questions around communication. And we know Mercury is the planet of communication, right? So I'm just thinking around this from a communication piece too, with our 5, is that it is, to think about this perspective is, what is the communication from the 5 and how does that fit into, the bigger picture of all of this, and giving you both in your relationship, a construct to work from that maybe can be a little more less inflammatory, if you will, or, to take a little bit of a step back from something which is so tender and deep and intimate, and for our 6s, very, very, tender and hard spaces to be in, vulnerable spaces to be in. So that's a wonderful question. And thank you for your vulnerability and allowing us all to deepen into that.
Absolutely.
And
And just closing, I know because we got some questions still here, and the clock is ticking. I know y'all want to get in, but y'all got to go rapid fire now. It's 15 seconds. I also let you come in, sister, because I definitely want us to keep flowing with this. And I believe obviously what is shared is very unique and very important to all of us. And I do want to also add is just personally as an additional layer. That's why I want to let you go, sister, because I have an additional layer too. Just as an additional layer, it's us also being aware that how we see someone doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong. It's interesting that, we would even, if we could say, well, yeah, this is a sex demon, but maybe this is just not the being that you're supposed to be with, because maybe that person can go and be with somebody else and then they will actually have a great time with the whole thing, and then it's just you personally saying, this is not where I'm at energetically. So I noticed that can be also a very infusing, powerful point to come back into a level of maturity, especially if, again, if the person's still around, there's something there that's tying it all in. If there's no kids or anything involved, then maybe you need to pack the bags already. But if there's something there much more deeper, this is the time, instead of just staying stagnant with what's happening, to bring in that next level of awareness into a relationship where it's actually, where two are actually comfortable in actually stating that this is not how I am, this is not how you are, this is where we actually are differing, and now we got to really be in control of deciding what we're going to do now about that. Because sometimes people can pretend that they like something just to please another person, and that person never knows that they don't like it because they haven't actually stated their boundaries. And then these stating what you really are about gives that person now that extra, well, I know that they don't like this. And it could ease up and allow a situation to move on to what it needs to become in the first place. So I did wanted to, just bring light to that how we see other things sometimes, it could be, because it could be something else. You could say, this person is too aggressive for me. They want to talk all the time. They argue, while somebody else could say, I need somebody that's really going to speak for us and where we're really at. And then let me handle what's back here. So this is, as Joy was saying, why this becomes so dynamic when you're looking at how the numbers work together versus how they may possibly be working against each other in certain levels of the unity code. So yeah, if you want to go ahead, Gail. Thank you.
Wholeness. I was just going to add that, yeah, we don't have a perspective on if they are on the same page, if they're looking at, like, if something happened and they're both like, what is that? Or if it's just the one person looking and saying that this is a problem for me. But I just also want to add quickly that the question was posed in the context of marriage. And so there are other layers to that as far as what the expectations are, and just that paradigm in the reality. And so I wanted to offer just a thought that we still, even in marriages, we're sovereign beings, and that we have I don't want to just say a right, but I want to say it's important to acknowledge that. I think Widri was tapping into that as far as, who we are and cleaning up that energy, as an individual in the relationship, and taking ownership of that in a powerful way to determine if this is for me, if this is something that I can detach from. Wholeness.
Beautiful.